What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Go Talk Go Markets, powered by Podex, fueled by Goat Fuel. I'm sad to say this. This is the last wrestling episode of season 2. The next wrestling episode will be season 3 premiere, which will be WrestleMania. So we will not have a show for Elimination Chamber, but that is neither here nor there. Today, once again, joining me on the show is my good friend Sal Vassallo of Sports in the Big Apple, because the Royal Rumble is here. Sal, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Royal Rumble, Big 4 pay-per-view. It's always exciting. Definitely an exciting finish to SmackDown where Sami Zayn has disobeyed the Tribal Chief and saved Solo Sikoa from a loss, but he did disobey Roman Reigns. Very specific instructions to go home.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting tomorrow.
Technically, and forgive me, because I was doing my show live, so I didn't watch SmackDown. I didn't watch all of SmackDown, but Roman wasn't on SmackDown, right?
He was not.
So technically, Sami didn't disobey Roman, because Roman on Monday said he doesn't want to see Sami again until Rumble. So technically, Sami, obviously Sami said he told Sami to go home, but in that regard, he disobeyed. But Roman didn't see Sami at SmackDown. It'll be interesting to see what happens at the Rumble.
Same thing. If Roman's not there, is it really an issue?
Yeah. Look, I'm super stoked for Rumble. As you mentioned, Big 4 pay-per-view. There's so much to discuss, and I think just since we're on the topic, we'll start with the Bloodline in general before we get into the matches. The Bloodline has been so great, like from start to finish, right? And as with all long storylines like this, there was, of course, moments of stagnation. You're like, okay, what's next, right? But when you think about the beginning of this all the way back to the Thunderdome era, with the introduction of Paul Heyman into all this, and then, of course, to Jey Uso, like from that to now, just the development and the layers of this Bloodline storyline, I think this has been the best long-term story WWE has told in a very, very, very long time. Like, the only thing I can think of off the top of my head that comes close to this is the story they told from WrestleMania 25 to 26 and then to 27 to 28 with the streak with Taker and Shawn and Triple H. Like, that was a fantastic long-term story that builded and culminated ultimately in the end of an era Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania 28. I don't know if outside of that one, if there's a better long-term story than what we're seeing right now with the Bloodline. This has been fantastic from start to finish, and it's sad to say that we're approaching the end of the Bloodline, which is sad to say as a fan, but also just like for an appreciation of what we've seen so far for almost 3 years now.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just, this is, I guess, what they've always wanted, Roman to be like their guy and their clear-cut guy. And it's like Rollins really isn't doing anything right now, so it's like Roman's your guy. And this has been masterful. This has been, Roman has looked dominant, and even like some guys, like when they get help all the time, look weak. Roman just looks like unbeatable. Like, even like you take like a Brock Lesnar, who, you remember their history, Brock used to dominate that rivalry. Now it's, the tables have kind of flipped, and maybe not because Roman is dominating Brock Lesnar physically, but it's just everything, like you just feel like Brock is now the underdog. And it's crazy to think, if you think back to all those WrestleMania main events, it's crazy to think you would be thinking of Brock Lesnar as the underdog, but it's to the point where Roman has done away with that feud now. And it's like he's literally ran through everybody except for Cody Rhodes and maybe, his other cousin.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, and I think this is something that's also like the incorporation of Sami, and I know people have said this a lot, the incorporation of Sami added layers to all of this, and layers that I don't think we ever would have gone without it, right? The understanding of like Jimmy Uso kind of being the right-hand man and kind of letting Reigns know, like, he's probably not supposed to be here. And then, of course, finally coming full circle and accepting him. Of course, like, Jimmy always kind of being stuck between Roman and Jay because, like, Jay's his brother, but Roman's his tribal chief. And, of course, now the introduction of Solo. But what's most important, too, is this is the introduction of Sami Zayn into the Bloodline and what he's done over these past almost a year now, I think. It's really brought out this unexpected layer of a monster heel, a dominant champion that can go out there on the ring and can deliver crazy promos and can manipulate and gaslight his family and gaslight the fans and gaslight his opponents and gaslight Paul Heyman and be this dominant beast, but then at the same time behind closed doors be very paranoid. Like, I don't think we've ever had that of a monster heel or a dominant champion, of like someone that can be so dominant and so confident and so egotistical on one end, but on the flip side of that exact same coin, be extremely paranoid of every turn recently. And I think that has shown a lot of, again, just the layers emotionally and mentally and physically of the Bloodline and what makes this one of the greatest long-term stories we've seen in the history of wrestling. Like, this has been phenomenal. So Roman Reigns obviously is going to be defending the undisputed WWE Universal Championship against Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble, right? And we know that because Roman said this on Monday during Raw, during the Tribal Court segment, which, by the way, phenomenal. Like, it was like 30-something minutes, but I enjoyed every second of it. He said that at some point, Sami is going to have to deliver his final test on Saturday. And we would assume it has to be during this match. What do you think that looks like for Sami, for Roman, for Kevin Owens, for the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship?
I think that it all comes down to, like, is Sami ultimately willing to cost Kevin Owens what is probably his last shot, I would say, at Roman Reigns as champion, because he's gotten it was a couple of years ago now, which is crazy to think of, but he's gotten chances already. So now he climbs his way all the way back up. And it's like Roman has kind of, like, you saw it at War Games, like Sami like took Roman's side, like ultimately turned on Kevin Owens. Now I think it's like, but you still see some hesitation when it comes to Sami Zayn, when it comes to Kevin Owens, and I think Roman Reigns is looking to, this is obviously like this is obviously big for pay-per-view, and is Sami Zayn going to turn on Kevin Owens one last time? Is there going to be any more reason for distraction within the Bloodline? Because it's Roman, like, kind of had a point when he said, like, I'm tired of, like, doing this every week, because it seems like every week him and Sami are, like, going through, like, problems where they have to talk stuff out, and I feel like Roman just like it's like deterring his focus a little bit, at least storyline wise. So, like, is Sami Zayn gonna help Roman Reigns get rid of the distraction in this whole title reign that is Kevin Owens once and for all? Because I really think this is Kevin Owens, like, this would be his only shot now this time around.
It's so interesting, the possibilities. Like, we know Roman's going to win this match. Kevin Owens is not going to be one of, or the guy to take one or both of the belts off of Roman Reigns. I think that is earmarked for some combination of, or one singular, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes. Those are the three. And I think we know that at this point, which is what makes the Rumble interesting. We'll talk about that in a second. Like, I don't know really what the test is going to be, but what I do know is it's going to get a massive pop from no matter what Sami does. Like, this is the excitement that I have for the Rumble it is that, like, there's so many, so pay-per-views I think should always be unpredictable, especially when you're talking about your big four, right? For the most part, by and large. And the crazy thing with the Roman Reigns title reign is Roman Reigns I don't think there's ever really been any true doubt, with an exception of at last year's Rumble when you had to face Rollins, and maybe when you had to face Cena at SummerSlam as well. Of like, there was never, but other than those two matches, maybe there's never really any doubt. Like, Roman's walking in as champion, he's walking out as champion, right? The doubt for Roman now isn't about whether or not he's walking in or out of champion. The doubt and the unpredictability with Roman Reigns now heading into Royal Rumble is, in this match against Kevin Owens, is he might be walking in with Sami Zayn a part of the bloodline, but is he going to walk out with Sami Zayn as a part of the bloodline? And if he's not walking out with Sami Zayn as a part of the bloodline, is Roman going to turn on Sami, or is Sami going to turn on Roman? Like, there's so many, I keep saying this, like, there's so many layers and so many elements to what makes this just so perfect that we all know Roman's going to win. But I'm just super curious, and I'm super eager to figure out which route they want to take as it pertains to who turns on who. Because what I do know is, and what I do think for sure is, Royal Rumble is going to be the last time we see Sami Zayn as a member of the bloodline as an honorary use, no matter how it happens. I think Saturday's it. I don't know. I can't see that. I can't see a scenario where Sami is going into the Royal Rumble as a bloodline and coming out of the Royal Rumble as a part of the bloodline as well. I think this is it. It's just a matter of how it happens, which is what has me most intrigued.
I kind of the more and more I think about this, it's like I don't want to see Kevin Owens save Sami Zayn from a beating. Like, I kind of don't want to. I kind of want to see Sami, because now he has worked so hard to gain the love of Jey Uso, and Jimmy has always been on his side. Solo has always been on his side, and so now, like, if Sami turns on the bloodline, that will crush the Usos, and that's kind of like that. That would be interesting, because I think it's like, for so long, this is what Jey Uso was kind of afraid of.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it actually happens now that Jey is literally the reason right now that Sami Zayn is still in the bloodline,
yeah,
I think it would just be interesting. I really just don't want to see the classic, like, the face turn for Sami Zayn where he gets beaten up and then Kevin Owens has to save Sami.
No.
I kind of want to see Sami, like, I guess it would come in the form of, like, Roman Reigns has always been about ending Kevin Owens. And so if he's about, if he's going to end, if he wins the match, which he will, and he decides to take things too far, that moment of hesitation for Sami Zayn, gone. He turns on the bloodline. Kevin Owens gets up and they stand tall, even though Owens lost the match.
Do you know what I think this is? Do you know what this Sami bloodline thing reminds me a lot of? When Daniel Bryan was a member of the Wyatt family, and Bray had kind of beat Bray into beat Bryan into submission to join the Wyatt family, and then there was that night on Monday Night Raw during the steel cage match when Bray, I think, had won the match, and he wanted to keep beating on whoever his opponent was. I can't remember who it was, and Bryan was just kind of like, he never said a word, but he just kind of broke his silence from a sense of Bray, and kind of, like you were saying, like, just was like I'm not doing that. And they kind of had their moment in Bryan standing tall over Bray. I feel like this is going to be that type of turn, because you're right. Roman, I don't see at this point, given what happened in Tribal Court, I don't see a scenario where Jey and Jimmy and Solo are going to want to beat up Sami. But I can definitely see a scenario where Sami turns on them and it shocks them. Still a face turn, but it just shocks Jey and Jimmy and Solo. That motivates them to want to go up against Sami or Kevin Owens or do whatever it is that they're going to have to do at Elimination Chamber or at WrestleMania in a couple months.
Yeah, and I think also, like, what people have to realize is, like, we're all, like, pondering, like, when is the end for Roman Reigns? When is the end for the Usos? Like, they're trying to separate the titles now, and that's good. But it's like, who takes them out? Like, it's long been rumored, because obviously Owens is losing this match.
Yep.
Tag team titles, Sami and Kevin. I mean, that'd be a pretty cool ring. Two guys that are excellent in the ring. And that would be an awesome match, though. One of the greatest tag teams of this generation and two of the best workers in the company. Like, that would be awesome. I think you add in the Solo Sikoa factor, who I think when the bloodline finally, like, dissolves, the guy who benefits most from that is going to be Solo, because looking at, you get Umaga flashbacks, obviously, when you see him. He's going to easily a world title contender when this is all said and done.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, speaking of world titles, let's talk about one of the women's world titles, the Raw Women's Championship. Alexa Bliss, who's seemingly tapping back into her dark side, taking on the Raw Women's Champion who just eclipsed 300 days as champion, Bianca Belair, who walks out of Royal Rumble as the champion of the Raw Women's division.
I would still have to say Belair for now, just because, like, I really haven't seen enough from Alexa Bliss that, like, tells me she's ready to, like, carry the. And now obviously she's a multi-time champion, but, like, lately she hasn't really done anything that tells me she can, like, carry a world title reign. Like, I can see why people could say Bliss, because the whole, like, Uncle Howdy thing, like, just started. So, like, why would you want to start that and then have her lose? But I think ultimately her losing could drive her more crazy. Like, it was kind of like the Becky Lynch thing that they had going on when she would go nuts after losing. I just don't see it right now. Like, Alexa hasn't done enough to tell me that she's going to beat that 300-day reign and one of the most dominant champions in the women's division in a very long time.
Yeah. Look, my gut's telling me Bianca Belair, because I think they're going for Bianca versus Ripley, because that's what we were supposed to get at SummerSlam, and we didn't get it because Rhea got hurt. And that'd be a great match, by the way. But my heart, and you know this because we've done enough of these, and you know how I feel about Alexa Bliss. I really think it's time that we get back to Alexa Bliss being champion. And I know that I get on these a lot, and I kind of preach about how you don't need a championship to be relevant, but not that Alexa Bliss needs it, but she deserves it. Like, Alexa Bliss is one of the, dare I say, one of the greatest female wrestlers of our generation. She's one of the greatest women's champions of our generation. She's one of the greatest women's champions of all time. Like, and she didn't have a lot of crazy title reigns, but she was so good at being champion. And I think that I think she deserves it. And I think it's long overdue. And I think a part of the reason why she didn't get it, of course, was because she suffered that really bad unlucky string of injuries on back-to-back years. And she kind of got, like, the consolation prize of being tag champ with Nikki Cross a couple times. But she's great. Like, she's great in the ring. She's great on the mic. And she is phenomenal as a champion. And I think it's time. It's not going to be at Rumble, I know. And it just hurts me. But I think it is time that she gets back to that, because I think she deserves it. And I think she'd make a great champion. I know she's not going to win, but my heart wants to see Alexa Bliss walk out as champion again, because it's been so long since we've seen Alexa Bliss hold a singles championship on the main roster.
If they were going to make Alexa champion again ever, I wouldn't want it to be as, like, this dark side fiend Alexa Bliss. I don't like this as much, just because what she used to, like, the old gimmick, like the golden god or something, the goddess. Yeah, was so good. And I think, like, that mic work was, like, the attitude, everything she put into that was so great. And it's like, with this one, the mic work is still good, but it's just, like, not the personality of hers that I've come to know.
Yeah.
And, like, Bray Wyatt can pull it off because he's, like, this is literally his creation. But, like, when Bray Wyatt got released, okay, you were thinking, okay, this is it for Alexa Bliss, and she started to kind of turn back into the goddess, and then now it's, like, right back to the fiend thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make much. It doesn't make much sense to me, and that's what I mean. Like, if it was her old gimmick, and it was like Bianca versus Alexa's old gimmick,
Yeah.
I might bet Alexa to win.
Sure.
But she hasn't done enough with this gimmick for me.
Yeah.
To say she's gonna end the reign of Bianca.
No, 100%. 100%. I agree. So, and you mentioned Bray Wyatt. Let's talk about it. This is a pitch black match. Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight. It's finally coming to a head. I know there's a lot of people on Twitter and things kind of like, why does it take so long? We're finally getting Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight in a pitch black match. Now, my immediate thought was that this would be something similar to like what we got in the Attitude Era when I think it was Rock versus Mankind. I think they had an empty arena match. And I thought for a second that this might be something that's pre-recorded, but then I realized that it's probably not. So then my next thought was maybe this would be something similar to like what they did with the House of Horrors back at Battleground or back at Payback a couple years ago when it was Bray versus Randy, or like the Firefly Funhouse match or something. It's going to be, I think this is going to be one of those cinematic matches. I could be wrong. I know we had a lot of cinematic matches in the Thunderdome and they could because it wasn't live and they did a bunch of things pre-recorded. But this, how do you pull off a pitch black match in front of a live audience? Like, how do you do that? I don't know. Like this one, I'm super interested just to see how this turns out. Like, I'm very confident that Bray is going to win. I don't think LA Knight wins this match. I'm just super intrigued as like, what is a pitch black match? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's why this is tough to talk about because I don't really know. We don't really know like what the match is going to be. Now, if it's like the Firefly Funhouse thing, like the thing he did against John Cena was like, I hated that. I really didn't like it. And obviously, I don't think they can do a cinematic match in front of a live audience. Like, can you imagine you're at the show and it's like, okay, look up at the
Yeah.
jumbo screen? No. So it's going to have to be it's going to be dark. And I think this is going to be something that's quick. I think it's because every Royal Rumble has like that because they have the 2 Rumble matches now.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be no longer than like 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
If it even goes that far.
Sure.
Yeah, cause it's just so hard. Like, obviously, like, are we gonna get like to know like the identity of Uncle Howdy? Like, I don't even think that's happening yet. Because like they said
we could figure out who Uncle Howdy is during this match. I didn't even think about that.
I think that's gonna be like as I think LA Knight's gonna come close, and he's gonna get stopped by Uncle Howdy. I think it's going to be Uncle Howdy that's the difference maker here. The question is, do we figure out who that is?
The interesting thing, too, with Uncle Howdy is we saw Uncle Howdy a couple weeks ago on SmackDown hit Bray Wyatt with his sister Abigail. And no one saw that coming. So this Uncle Howdy component is massive. I just really want to know what a pitch black match is. I want to know how they're going to pull it off. That's all I'm concerned about. I don't care who wins. Bray's probably going to win. I don't care who wins, though. I want to know 2 things. What is a pitch black match? And are we going to figure out who Uncle Howdy is during this match? Those are the only 2 things I care about. There is one other. No, I think that's it. We've got the Raw Women's Championship. We got the Undisputed Championship match. We've got the pitch black match. That's all the matches.
There's only 3 on there, unless there's anything on the pre-show. But
sure. So I've actually liked that they've kind of gotten rid of pre-show matches and just kind of just talked up the card. I've actually enjoyed that. So let's talk about the Rumbles. We'll start with the easier Rumble to talk about. That's the Women's Royal Rumble match. I think it's safe to say that we both agree that Rhea Ripley's going to win this match.
Yeah, and I think because you do Ronda versus Charlotte again, and then obviously
Ronda was pulled from the card. Ronda's not going to be there. I read that the other day.
I actually didn't even know.
Ronda was pulled from the card. I think the only other option, and it's not going to happen. Like the only other option that's fathomable, I guess, would be Liv Morgan, but Liv Morgan's already had her push. Raquel Rodriguez had a mini push, but it didn't really work out. Like it has to be Rhea. I don't think there's anyone else on the women's roster that you can put in this spot to have win the match. Other than
I think like especially like the Judgment Day coming off the loss.
Yeah.
To the Usos, like they need something. And they've also hinted at it because they've had like videos or like they've had the scenes where you had Bianca walk past Rhea Ripley,
Mhm.
and it's like you can kind of see like the little bit of mutual respect, but it's like one day this is happening.
Yeah, 100%. So this is my question. I always ask this question, and we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I think this is the third Rumble show we've done. So, and I always ask this question: if Rhea Ripley's going for the Raw Women's Championship, who is lined up for Charlotte for WrestleMania for the SmackDown Women's Championship? What route are they taking? Because that SmackDown Women's roster is not a good one at all. So, like, what are they doing? Who do you think is going to be lined up for that then?
It's tough because there's you're talking about Charlotte Flair, who's one of the most decorated champions, whether people like it or not.
Yep.
She's it's tough because there's not a lot of talent on that SmackDown women's roster. I mean, maybe Raquel. I don't know. I just because Raquel would be because it's like I do like physically like Raquel's like can match up well with Charlotte, but
100%.
I definitely don't want to see like a Liv Morgan thing. It's tough because there's not a lot of women that are like on like a high, like a major push right now.
Yeah.
So you don't really have a lot of options.
Yeah.
Raquel's the only name that's really coming to mind for me. I mean, just because I feel like they're not pushing the women's divisions as hard. Like it's hard for me to get not excited about it because Bianca Belair, this match they have Belair versus Bliss, exciting. I think Belair's gonna win, but very exciting match.
Mm-hmm.
Raquel's really the only name coming to me when it comes to like, if you're gonna give somebody, because obviously you have Rhea versus Belair, and that's gonna be great.
Oh, 100%. It's gonna be a great match. It's gonna be a fantastic match. I thought before she got released that maybe they'd have Mandy Rose come back and win one of the women's championships, probably the SmackDown Women's Championship, because I think Toxic Attraction being on SmackDown would have given the SmackDown Women's division the boost that it needed. There's a lot of fans that kind of think that maybe Mandy can still come back at the Rumble. We'll kind of see if that happens. I know there's a couple people that think that maybe Naomi can come back and win or be in the Rumble and kind of set something up for that match against Charlotte. We're gonna have to figure it out. But that SmackDown Women's division is not a good one. And the one thing I said about Charlotte coming back, I never really had a problem with Charlotte coming back or Charlotte coming back as champion. I was just concerned that Charlotte was going to come back and she was going to be a transitional champion because that's all she's been her last like 7 title reigns is just a transitional champion, like someone just to hold the championship to give to someone else and kind of help put them over. And I didn't like that because I think Charlotte deserves to have, meaningful championship rings. So we'll see what happens. But the men's Rumble is the most interesting Rumble. And not just because it's more important, but because of just all of the layers. And that's the word of the day, layers. You've got 3 guys on the roster that for sure can win the Rumble, and it would make sense. You've got another guy who could potentially come in and win the Rumble, and it would make sense. Might not be the best choice, but it would make sense. Those 4 guys are Sami Zayn, who we've mentioned earlier, Cody Rhodes, who is the odds-on favorite, Seth Rollins, who a lot of people probably think could also win it, and then, of course, The Rock, because there's a lot of people that still hold out hope that maybe The Rock comes back and wins the Rumble. And you and I talked about this before the show, and we all know where I stand on The Rock coming back and winning the Rumble. I don't mind The Rock coming back. I don't mind seeing The Rock versus Roman. But Rock versus Roman does need to be a title match, and if it is a title match, you don't need The Rock to win the Rumble to set that up. You've got the head of the table, Roman Reigns, versus The Rock. They're part of the same family. Like it's really easy to write that story without the Rumble being involved and wasting a Rumble winner. So I don't want to see The Rock win the Rumble. And if he's in it, I think he's going to win it, which is unfortunate. But who do you think wins this year's men's Royal Rumble?
I mean, I really think there's only. I mean, Rollins could win it, but like, you want not that he doesn't deserve the honor of being, because I think whoever wins this Royal Rumble is going to end the reign of this historic title reign,
Mhm.
and Rollins has already accomplished so much in the WWE.
Yeah.
And obviously, you put all this stock into Cody Rhodes coming back and the whole winning it for Dusty. So yeah, I think Cody Rhodes is the one that makes sense. I would love for him to come in. He doesn't have to come in too early for me, but like how at the middle of the Royal Rumble. I wouldn't like it if it was like 28-30 and he like, because that's not outlasting everybody, Yeah, I want to see like him healthy back in the ring for at least like 20 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, this is such a tough one. The reason it's tough, I agree with you. I think Cody's going to win. But we were talking about the Usos and how they've been kind of getting them to split up. Like they defended the Raw tag titles on Raw 30. They're going to defend the SmackDown tag titles against whoever wins the SmackDown tag team title tournament for the number one contendership. I'm still trying to figure out if there's a chance that Roman drops one of the titles before Mania. And I know a lot of us kind of thought that like when the Bloodline was just running over Raw those consecutive weeks, that like Adam Pearce was going to say, look, this keeps happening, then we're just going to strip Roman of the championship, and they're going to have like a tournament or something like that. And I really, really, really like that idea. But all of that is lost steam. And so if they're still going to have Roman lose one of these titles before Mania, you kind of have to figure out two things. Who's, of course, going to take the other one, but then who's going to challenge him for the other. And I don't know how they can do this. Like, I want to see Cody versus Roman. I think it'd be a great match. I think it would be the perfect story. You're talking about a guy in Roman Reigns who comes from the Anoa'i family, a family that's been through generations and generations of WWE, a family that is loved and respected and revered within the wrestling community. And then you have a guy in Cody Rhodes who, as he said a couple times in his promos, comes from the Rhodes family, who has been made fun of and has been thrown into polka dots and has been thrown into face paint and has been made to like dance and do all these crazy gimmicks and not really as revered and respected and as honored as Roman and the Anoa'i family. And I feel like that story of the dominant champion coming from the respected lineage and the respected family versus the underdog challenger coming from the family that's not as respected, whose lineage doesn't run as deep. I think that story that you can tell would be magnificent, and I think the match between the two would be phenomenal because they're great. They're both wonderful in the ring. But then the question becomes, how do you manage the other championship, or how do you manage Roman Reigns in that scenario if he doesn't drop both titles? Like, and I know Rock kind of said that he's not going to be in ring shape, but that could be a thing to just throw us off the scent. I always thought that they were going to get Roman main eventing both nights. You'd have Roman solidify himself as head of the table in night one by beating The Rock, and then night two, he dropped the belts to Cody. But Cody really only wants the WWE Championship. So, like, is Roman going to have two challengers? What do you think they go the double winner route? Do you think they do that? Like, because we've seen a couple times in history, like, I don't know what you do, but like, I remember back in 2005, Cena and Batista both fell out the exact same time. Do you think we get something like that? Like, how do you manage if The Rock really isn't coming back? You got to have two bona fide main events, and you've got two world titles. Like, how do you make this work so that Cody wins the championship he's supposed to win, he's destined to win, which is the WWE Championship, but also that someone is challenging for the Universal Championship if that's the route you want to go? Like, this is bro. I know I've been saying it on all show. The layers to this are so intricate, and I agree with you. I think Cody's going to win. There's just so many different ways that they can go with this. It's confusing, but it's also exciting. So like, because you want to get these answers.
It's always been a thing when they unified, even with the tag titles, when they unified it, like, how are they going to get it off Reigns now? Are they going to split them? Or are they going to just, hand Cody both, which is probably not what he wants. He probably only wants to win the one for his father. So it's like, does Roman retain the Universal title, thus keeping that very long streak going?
Mm-hmm.
Because it started with just the Universal title, or do you have him take like a? I don't think you can have him take a double loss. I think if anything, like
And
maybe
have him take a double loss. That's too steep. That's too Icarus. Like that's flying close to the sun and then just that's Macbeth on steroids. That can't happen. He can't double lose. But like if he retains one and wins the other, what's the format? Do you have him retain night 1, lose night 2? Do you have him lose night 1, bounce back and retain night 2? Like what do you? I feel like Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns has to be the main event of night 2. I think it has to.
Yeah, the only way he could lose. Yeah, I mean the only way he could lose night 1 is if Cody cost him that championship, because he can't straight up take a loss.
Yeah.
And then go into his match with Cody Rhodes, because then at that point he has to beat Cody.
Yeah.
Which is obviously not what they're gonna do. At least
true.
I don't think so.
That's true.
See, I think he would have to win night 1 because he's losing night 2.
Yeah.
If he faces Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Because Cody Rhodes versus Reigns that's your main event of night 2.
It's one of those things where you look at, and again, that story of just the Rhodes family versus the Wyatt family. I know Dusty's not here anymore, and I know Dustin is in AEW, but like you can still tell a very intricate story that way without really needing to involve older generations of the family, even though of course the Rhodes family doesn't go back as far in wrestling as the Wyatt family does. But like that is I think the perfect story to tell and the perfect way to storybook Cody's first WrestleMania main event, his first Rumble win, his first WWE Championship win. I think that does all 3 of those things. It does it well, and it's a perfect story. I think the only other way to make it happen, though, is like I just can't see if Cody has to win the WWE Championship, because that's the one that he's been talking about since he's been back to the WWE Championship. So if Rock isn't coming back, if what Rock said is true, and if the reports are true and Rock doesn't think he's going to be ring champion, he's not coming back. Who's going to challenge Roman for the Universal Championship, and how do they make that happen? Because the reports are, and based on what appeared to be the leaked Elimination Chamber poster that was on a chair, we're still getting Sammy versus Roman at the Elimination Chamber. So who is Sammy? Who, if they're splitting up the titles, is Roman going to have 2 matches, and who is his second opponent going to be? Is it going to be Seth? Can't be Seth? Like who?
Seth always has a gripe.
Yeah.
Because out of this entire championship reign, the one guy he has not beaten is Seth Rollins. He lost that match because he got himself disqualified.
Yeah.
So, like, Seth has never seriously come back at Roman about it, but it's a card he could always play. And Rollins versus Reigns would always sell.
Always.
But are you willing to end the... Because you would give Roman the ultimate momentum boost heading into night 2 by having him finally beat Seth Rollins, and then he will have officially beaten everybody else but Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, that's true.
There's not a single other name that I can think of that he hasn't beaten. So like Cody Rhodes being the last guy to possibly stop Roman Reigns. I mean, that could happen. I mean,
yeah, could. It's an interesting story, and I think again, like I've said all show, like there's a lot of different stories that can be told, a lot of different seeds that can be planted. And I just know for a fact, no matter who wins what, no matter what happens, Royal Rumble is going to be fantastic. It is going to be great. I think this is going to be one of the best Rumbles we've had in years. And I'm very excited to see how this all unfolds as we get closer and closer, of course, to WrestleMania, and ultimately to, more importantly, the end of Roman Reigns' reign as the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Because it's all tied together. He's going to lose at least one of them. So It's gonna be fun to see what happens.
This is the beginning and the end of an era starting
Yeah.
tomorrow, because the bloodline will start to dissolve because Sammy will be kicked out, or he'll pretty much kick himself out when he turns on them, which is what I hope happens.
Yeah.
And then Roman can't he can't be the champion that much longer. At least not both of them. And if you're bringing back Cody Rhodes, I don't want to see Seth versus Cody 4. I mean, that matchup is fine, but like you've seen it already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Sammy versus Roman is going to be really good, though.
It will be.
It's going to be great, and it's going to be like, I feel like it's going to be the Usos and Solo, like, they might be like hesitant to help Roman, especially the Usos, because they've grown so fond of Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a great match. And it's gonna be interesting. We talk all about Roman losing his championships. How do you take the belts off the Usos now? Because as much of a workhorse as Roman has been, so have the Usos. They have been on every show, both shows every week.
Yeah.
They have really done a phenomenal job.
Yeah. The question also for the Usos, though, is because Jimmy, and they threw up the X, that's a real injury too. Jimmy did get hurt on Monday on Raw during their title defense. And it could be a storyline X, but I don't think it was a storyline X. I think it was a legit X. I hope it's not a legit X, of course. I hope he's okay. But Jimmy got hurt during their title defense against the Judgment Day, and that kind of put Sammy into the match. And that's why I kind of think it was maybe just a storyline X, because they did the same the week before when they had Dominic fill in for Finn when Finn got hurt during the gauntlet match. So it could be a storyline X of kind of like, let's just give Sammy another kind of feather in his cap of him helping the bloodline maybe. But we'll see, right? Because they do have to defend the SmackDown Tag Team Championship soon. So we'll see what happens there. But I do hope that that's not a legit injury, and I do hope that Jimmy's okay, because Jimmy and Jay and the Usos, whoever they lose the titles to, whenever they lose the titles, it's going to be a great match. And I want both of them to be healthy for that match so that they can give us that instant classic of a tag team championship match before we are shocked by whoever ends up taking the titles off of them. It's always a pleasure, of course, to have Sal on the show to talk wrestling. It's mildly unfortunate that we won't have a show for the Elimination Chamber, because the show will be on break from the end of this, from the Super Bowl until WrestleMania. But this is the last wrestling episode of season 2 of Go Talk with Marcus. But yes, I'll go ahead and tell them one last time where they can find you and all your content.
Yeah, so I just finished recording tonight my AFC NFC Championship preview, which is, I think is gonna be great. Stat wise, I think we're getting a shootout for the. I really feel like we're getting a shootout for the AFC Championship,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's gonna be the NFC is gonna be a little bit different. I think that game is gonna be a little bit lower scoring, but I think that still these are the best 4 teams in football. I don't think there's like there was no upsets on the way. To think these are your best 4 teams. But anyways, you can find me on Instagram at Sports in the Big Apple. You can find my podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. Yeah, and also one more thing I just wanted to notice. You just talked about Dominic filling in for Finn Balor. I thought it was interesting that Damian Priest was kind of hesitant to team up with Dominic Mysterio. Like, he definitely did not want Dominic Mysterio in that match. Interesting thing to keep in the back of your mind, because I other than Rhea Ripley, I really don't know where they're going with this Judgment Day story, because it's like, it was exciting. They're in a championship match, and it's like they pretty much just got squashed.
Yeah,
it's like I don't know what they're doing with it outside of Rhea Ripley. It's gonna be interesting though. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be on the show. This Rumble's gonna be great. I
is.
always look forward to what returns we can see. The Kofi Kingston saves every year. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see a ton of surprise. Hopefully they can do something to kind of jazz up the women's Royal Rumble a little bit, like a big surprise, or like maybe they'll shock us with something. But I mean, I think Ripley wins it, like you said, but something. I need something that tells me, like, why do I want to watch anything other than like the last 5 minutes of this match?
Yeah. Hopefully they do something. But like I said, it's always a pleasure to have Sal on the show. It's always fun. Always a blast talking wrestling with Sal. And luckily, the first episode back for season 3 will be an episode with Sal because we'll be talking about WrestleMania. So in about a month and a half, we'll be right back. Well, yeah, about a month and a half or so. We'll be right back here talking about some more wrestling. But there are only 2 episodes left of season 2. We have next week's episode. Next Friday, we're going to do a trade deadline recap for the NBA. The NBA trade deadline is on February 2nd. So February 3rd at 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll have some guys on to talk about the trade deadline and also talk some All-Star stuff. And then the week after that is the Friday before the Super Bowl, and then either on February 10th or February 11th. Whichever of those 2 days, either the Friday or the Saturday before the Super Bowl, we will have our season finale to preview the Super Bowl. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for liking and commenting and sharing all the things you've done over the last season. I appreciate all the love and all the support. If you are not already subscribed, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new episodes, especially so you don't miss the premiere of season 3 of Go Talk with Marcus in April. It's always a pleasure, like I said, to do this with Sal. It's always a pleasure to do this in general with all the guys I've done this with. So for Sal of Sports in the Big Apple, this is Marcus of Go Talk with Marcus signing off. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the Rumble. Hopefully you guys will tune in next week to talk some hoops. Hopefully you guys tune in the week after that for the season finale. As always, you guys enjoy the rest of your lives.